Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Hebrews chapter 12. And the words in chapter 12 come directly on the heels of what we took a look at yesterday in chapter 11, going through all those in the Old Testament who walked in faith. And chapter 12 begins with therefore. And what we're told is that because of all these people who walked the faith before us and did it well, we have a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us that are cheering us on. And as a result of that, we need to run the race that is set before us, which is our faith walk. And we do that with endurance and keeping our eyes fixed and focused on Jesus Christ as the one who authored and finishes our faith. And then from there, we're given a different look at suffering and sin. Because what we're told here is that we need to reframe how we think of it. Because what he does is he frames it as discipline from God. And not that sin is discipline in and of itself, but what he's saying is let's reframe how we think about it. And by doing so, we can look at it as what can we learn from this as we're suffering and going through these things? Because discipline from a loving father is meant to teach you something. And so the author of Hebrews is saying, let's do the same thing with sin and suffering. Let's see what we can learn from it, from God, so that it can grow us toward holiness. And that's what he's telling us to do when we are facing these sufferings and dealing with and struggling with sin. That's how we need to reframe it. But then he ends the chapter by telling us that we need to not despise God's grace. We need to make sure that we don't reject it, because he uses the example of Esau, who rejected his birthright, and then those who heard from God at the mountain, and then they rejected him as being the one who would speak directly to them. And they were not given that opportunity again. And what he's saying is, now that God is speaking from heaven, if you reject that, the opportunity is going to pass you by if you continue to do that. And once it passes you by, there's not going to be an opportunity to do that, because it's going to be too late by the time you finally realize it. So while the opportunity is there, don't reject it. So what's the main takeaway for us? Well, really it's what we see in the first couple of verses of chapter 12. Running the race that's set before you, and remembering to keep your eyes focused on Jesus Christ. Because each and every one of us has our own faith that we need to live out, and we need to do it by focusing on Jesus Christ and doing it with endurance, making sure that we don't give up. And as we do that, then we are able to then do everything else that we see in chapter 12 by reframing our sin and suffering to learn the lessons that we need to continue to grow in holiness and look more like Christ every single day. So that's what I want to encourage you with today. And until next time, grace and peace.